What's up, everyone? Welcome back to finally another episode of the Dust to US Double Doors podcast. It's been a long time since we've actually done one of these because we had, everyone had their like holiday stuff and we were doing everything. And now, so we're finally back. We're finally doing it. We kind of didn't do one after the last World Finals, but we're coming back in a big way. We've got Shake Alan Hardeman with us. Liam, as always, you are here. We've got a lot of things to talk about. I think first we are probably going to just talk about Shake and we'll talk to you about what you've done in the last year. Your 2022 was a wild ride, and then we'll get into most of the news. So welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been a while since we had you back on.
Yeah,
it was like the open. I was saying it to Ryan. It was like probably like the open qualifiers, and we were doing those weird watch-alongs on Ryan's slideshow PC.
It's okay. It's okay. We're not going to do that anymore now that we have producer Martin. It's significantly better. We're going to have to do it again though, because we're going to have them coming up. Around the same time, because that's the other point of news. The press conference is happening tomorrow, which will be 3:45 a.m. my time.
8:45 my time.
Oh, that's much more reasonable.
Poor me.
What do you mean, poor you? I've had meetings at 8:30 before. This can't be hard.
Gamer hours.
What time do you sleep until?
I don't know. Not 8:45 anyway.
Alan, please tell me you at least like have a normal sleep schedule.
I'm on a normal sleep schedule right now.
That's amazing.
That is not the case, but I don't need alarms to wake up. Or not need alarms to not wake up from matches.
Happens. Yeah, you've been on a bit of a break recently, the last 6 months, ever since the unfortunate downfall of Bad News Bears Part 2. One of the first interviews I actually did with us too, we did. And it was an interview that kind of never got published, talking about the Bad News Bears project as it was headed into this next stage. So you had that beginning. It was you, Schwan, Momo, Pluto, and Spongy. Mm-hmm. And so you guys for the 6 months were able to like go hard into it, but it seemed to really flame out fast, despite having like going to the RMR and despite doing a lot of like things. Like, you want to talk to us? Let's talk about that for a little bit.
I mean, yeah, we had probably one of the best opportunities. We went over there and we had a 5-week camp in Europe after the RMR, and to come back and place words Premier after doing that, it kind of spoke volumes, especially to me. I don't know. That was like very helpful, but it also was like fracturing in a way because I felt like it exposed like work ethic and who was committed and like who wasn't. And like to me, at the end of the day, it just like that was just so unacceptable. And I had just seen why like we had failed when we came back, and I just was not willing to continue with it at all because it's like, what's the point? Like,
wow.
I feel like I did pretty much everything I could. I felt like I went over there, I put in like a bunch of effort, and I don't know, at some point you just have to accept that that was just a completely unacceptable result when we came back, and there's just no other way around it. So I had been rebuilding for 2 years. The best players that I had just getting poached. And I don't know, it's specifically with like how I want to play the game and the way I view the game, like, and it's tough, but I feel like the way that I call is not good, especially with inexperienced North American players, because it requires a lot of foundation, and it does require time, but it also requires a lot of effort to learn things that are not necessarily like measurable in game. Like, you have to improve upon your communication, your ability to read the game, and we are so far behind that in North America as a scene. A lot of people don't have strong leaders that they've learned from. And even the players that are at the top of Premier, like a lot of them don't even know how to do, I feel like, a lot of the things that I like try to do in game. But
well, like, what do you mean by that? I think a lot of people might not understand what you're talking about when you're saying like I call differently, I call it this level above. Like, what is that?
So in tier 1, I think you have to be able to read the game at a really solid level. Like, you have to be able to make decisions on the fly sometimes and know what's happening in real time, and especially recognize when rounds are different for like really small reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you have to adjust
like,
your reaction.
What kind of small reasons? Is that like the way that defensive smokes come out or mollies or like
Yeah,
what
like
is it?
if a team went ramp on nuke and then their lurk was door as opposed to, you know, secret, how are you going to rotate around now? Maybe if that like rotate is down secret and they hit ramp, like you have to come up with something on the fly that you haven't thought of because usually you'd rotate down the vent if they went ramp. And so being able to figure those things out in the middle of the game is like something that I think is really important, and allowing players freedom to be able to make those reads in game is really important, but it it's really tough for them to learn how to do that if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just have like a set rotation and a set way to do things, and I don't think that that's optimal for learning the game if that makes sense. It's like a fairly
Yeah.
consistent way to play the game. Like it'll win you 80% of rounds doing that. But I'd rather try to win 95 to 100% and you aim for that if that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I think it does.
Was
I
like a
just think it's
concept.
interesting.
Obviously, you can't win 100% of rounds in the
Yeah.
game, right? But
Right.
like,
You can't 16-0 every time.
Yeah.
You're just gonna lose to some fucked up shit.
You were always one of those people that I kind of like looked at, and like you said, with the leadership vacuum that is in the scene, like you're one of those names that everyone kind of looks towards. Who would have been your kind of like leadership? Like, who did you look up to when you were coming through? Because I feel like with such a vacuum at the moment.
I mean, I did join the team with Chaos, right? And Steel had, I feel like, taught me a lot about the game. That was a point where I'd failed with Singularity, and maybe if we had more time as a team, we would have succeeded. But in terms of we failed, I wasn't doing individually the best in my career, and then I felt like I learned a lot of principles from him that I originally wouldn't get. Like a lot of I would say even now the tier 1 scene is very disconnected from our tier 2 scene. And the players that are coming up in the scene, like I had never had anybody that had taught me anything about the game that was a tier 1 player. And that was even back when, the scene was pretty alive and there was a lot of teams. Granted, I wasn't very good about reaching out to those players, but at the same time they also really weren't playing too much of FPL, I feel like, and being that available, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which they're not required to do by any means, right? But I would say it's like nice for the scene overall if it's connected top to bottom. And so I felt like Steel again was the first person that taught me things and challenged my view about the game, and I could sit down and have a conversation with, and he would say something back to me, and I'd be like, "Whoa, okay, like that makes sense. I hadn't thought about it like that. Like I need to adapt."
And do you think that's like this brain drain that we've had a little bit at least towards Valorant, or do you think it's been like most of those guys were middling players anyway? They weren't going to reach the top,
I think
and
that a lot
and
of
removing it helped maybe another generation kind of like find its feet now, and we're kind of in that space.
I mean, I think that we actually lost a really good crop of players. Like I
Yeah.
think players like Crashies, why they weren't
Yeah.
that great at the beginning necessarily. I think he had a lot of potential, and especially toward the end of Bad News Bears, he was a really solid piece. And I do think that there were players that had potential to be tier 1 in our scene that we lost. And even if, that is making another 1 or 2 teams that are sponsored by a TSM or whatever, like that is really important for our scene, right? And
Yeah.
so like I think that those players leaving definitely is harmful, but I mean, the gap will get filled by players, but I would say that Premier is definitely weaker than it has been in the past skill wise. Maybe not at like the very top, just because the game always improves, so the players might be smarter. But like, if all those players were still in the scene, MDL would be way stronger or Premier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at it, and I'm just jumping over into the Valorant thing like right now, like we lost Ethan, Hayes, kind of towards the end. Tex was one of those players. We lost Victor, also known as Food, but I guess he's seemingly changed out of that. FNS was a good IGL, and Som, but Som was, I think we all know Som. Som, the problem that we always had, I think everyone had in NA with Som, was that Som just didn't care, but he was still so fucking good, it was annoying. But he just like wouldn't try. He did it, and this is like not even like an insult. He just was like, I prefer streaming. It's much more fun to stream than to actually like play competitively. And now he's like playing on a tier 1 Valorant team. He's playing on he's like, I think he's part of the starting NRG lineup. Unclear.
Yeah, he is with
Is he?
FNS
They
and
have like
Victor
6
and
players.
Crashies. I don't
Yeah,
know who the fifth
it's
is.
Artis, Thwifo,
Akis,
Victor.
yeah,
Yeah,
the European guy.
yeah. So it's like it's a whole fucking like craziness, and I don't even want to get into like all the other like teams that there are. I mean, if we even look at like the Evil Geniuses squad, Com was a smaller player.
He played with
wasn't-
Mythic in the end, so
Yeah.
you know.
He was good.
I mean, even then, like playing for Mythic in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing for our scene. Like they're streamers, and,
no.
provide content, and like Flom hosts are huge, and Cooper's a big streamer now, and Freakazoid's
Yeah.
a big streamer. Like those people are a big reason that FPL is still watched in North America, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think the saddest one is the Cloud9. Is the Cloud9 Valorant team. All your boys. That one.
I mean, yeah.
That one's hard. Zeppa, Leaf, Vanity, Celsius, Yay. Like I remember fucking Yay. Like God, I forget which frag it was, but it was one of the early ones back at the old area arena, and the match went to like 2 a.m. and he won a BenQ monitor as like his MVP award. Like that was that. Like that was where Yay really kind of was, and our scene was. And now he's like, I'm the greatest player fucking alive. Like, what are you gonna do? It's crazy.
Where do you think Ye would be right now if he was still in Counter Strike?
That's such a hard question, Alan. I need you to answer that one because I have no idea.
I mean, it's tough to say because Ye was on like a fringe EPL team.
Yeah, he was on
I
the
think he swapped over,
complexity.
but he was also on like the team that made top 8 at the major, right? And I mean, we haven't had a team really make top 8 at a major in a long time other than Liquid, right? So I don't know. He seemed like a player with a lot of skill and potential. But he's also pretty young, so you never really know. Like he would have had 3 more years now to be playing, or 2 more years, I think it is, since he swapped over. And I mean, I don't know. He would definitely he would at minimum be a top premier player, like at minimum, and likely he would probably be on, I would say one of the top teams.
He'd probably be on a team like Nouns right now. Like he probably would. Oh God, he was on that Orgos team, the Swole Patrol, Lazarus, whenever the hell that was back in 2019. Bad News Bears team, Complexity, and then it was like some who the hell knew before Complexity, some weird teams, United for a hot second. Like it's crazy when you look through and you see these top pros and you see the guys that you've played with, you've kind of really grown up with. Have you ever had that feeling of switching over?
I mean, I played the game a little bit when it first came out, just to dabble, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason not to look at it as a potential opportunity, especially because Riot had a lot of success with LCS, and so just taking that and looking at Valorant, right? I mean, I know LCS right now is not looking too hot, but
I'm trying to like I'm seeing it from the outside. It feels like it's dying.
But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Overall, the structure that Riot had created was what people were branding like one of the first healthy esports ecosystems, right? And like I know LCS is struggling right now, but I think LEC and the rest of them are doing pretty well. But
but the LCS is like seems to only be struggling in purely from like Riot investing money into their like talent. I don't see anything else like bad. Like it seems like the LCS still has like a dearth of like actual good players. It's just NA doesn't know how to fucking play League of Legends
in any game, apparently.
In any game, except Valorant. We're really good at Valorant.
It's also just begun.
Yeah, it's also just started.
We weren't good at League when it first began,
and we were also good. We were really fucking good at CS:GO. I was on some HLTV gallery ESEA Invite Season 16 Finals. That was like 2014.
Yeah,
and it was the iBuyPower and Complexity Finals, and it's like Sean Garris and like all the players, and I'm like, Jesus.
Is that where Titan lost? Titan was like the only big European team that was over there.
No, Navi was there. Virtus Pro was.
Oh,
I gotta bring this up.
Get that up, yeah.
I just remember that a lot of the early lands that happened, like the invite lands, where the European teams would technically qualify for teams, but I don't think they would always come over.
No,
I know NIP came over one time and destroyed everybody.
NIP came. So this is ESEA Invite Season 16 Global Finals in 2014 in June, down in Dallas, Texas. Virtus Pro placed 3rd, Navi placed 4th, NIP placed 5th, netcodeguides.com 5th, 6th, and iBuyPower was 1st, Complexity was 2nd. Can you name the other North American team? Just the name.
Denial?
No, not Denial.
Tempo Storm?
No. A team called Manajuma.
Oh, I know that. That was Shroud's team.
Yes.
Shroud, Justin, I don't know the other people, but it was Shroud and Justin.
I will let you know. It was
Dumore?
Rokanji, Desi, Shroud, DeBorn, and our favorite and the former Envy head of performance, who is also a male model.
Miniker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miniker played against fucking Guardian and Zeus on LAN. I like saw some. I don't know why I thought of it, but I remembered Miniker for some reason. I looked this up and I want to see his stats, and it's the funniest fucking thing. There you go. That's some history there. Okay, let's move on because we have a show that we should keep moving on to. NA players in the top 20. Randy Yakinder Smith at number 15. We love to see it. Yuri was 19. We also had Case Rado was extremely high up where he was at 9th. So right now, the biggest two names that we don't have yet are Liege and Nap. And we've hit number 7 today. And that means, and did we hit number 6 today? I must have missed it. No, just
7
number
was
7.
7 was Monacy,
Seven was
which
Seven.
was
Monacy,
today.
So we only did
yeah.
Monacy. So do we think that Liege and NAF are somehow in the top 6, or do we think NAF has to be in the top 6, I guess? Or do we think that NAF didn't even make it
Nah.
at all?
I think if they
There's no
weren't
way.
outside the top 10, I don't think they're gonna make it. Because think of it: Shiro, Zaiwu, Axile, Simple. Who am I missing? Shiro,
Brokey? Nico?
Brokey, yes, Brokey, Nico.
Brokey.
That's
So
six.
Wait,
we
that
don't
means
thi-
one of them didn't make it, right? Or
Yes,
no?
that means that
No,
so
there's
out
6.
No. But there's
Nico,
But there's 7 people. Nico, Zaiwu,
Zaiwu,
Simple, Brokey,
Axile.
Shiro, Exile, and then we missed one, right? I put Nico twice. No, it's 6.
Yeah,
It's
so it's
6.
the
that is
6.
that
Is
has
that
to
what
be
we
six
think?
then.
Is that what they
Yeah,
think?
trolling,
So
I'm
it means that
trolling.
NAF
Can't
and
count.
Liege. So no NAF and no Liege. How do we genuinely? How do we feel about that? Because it feels like for another year, like this is probably then one of NAF's worst years, and same with Liege. But like, I mean, he was 14th in 21. He made 7th in 19. 2020 he wasn't there, and he was 6th in 2018. So is NAF's form just constantly falling down? But it doesn't feel like that. Honestly, it feels like this was another very solid year for him, and I'm a little shocked that he just wasn't there. When we look at the last 12 months, when we just look at when we look at purely at 2022, he had a 1.13 rating, he had a 74.5 cast, he had an impact of 0.97, which probably hurt him because that was on the way lower end. But his ADR is almost like 80. Like he's had solid stuff.
I guess it would be probably to do with like his actual impact in the games. Because like when you look at Yakinder, like Yakinder's stats are pretty similar, but he was a win factor for Liquid. Like he was what shook up that team and like got them to Cologne, got them to EPL finals. Like
Yeah.
Whereas NAF is just like he is just a consistent beacon, but he's not like a win condition for them. And it was the same when they had Shocks. Like he was consistent, but they were fucking shit. Like,
Well, yeah.
like
I wouldn't say Shocks was
his-
consistent. I wouldn't say he was consistent in a good way.
no, as in like NAF during that time, like he kept his consistent rating. It's just they were shit. Like they weren't winning any games. Like, so yeah,
That was a whole experience. So Adeline, what do you, is it time to then worry about Elysian NAF, or do you think that this year, with the way that the whole shock situation happened in the first half of the year and kind of what's come out of that, and the team very clearly demonstrating that this was bad, and they show it by going to you bring in Yakinder, and all of a sudden you make an amazing run at Cologne, and then all of a sudden you're making finals at Pro League, which they should have won. And then in the major, they slip up. But again, they were kind of in prime position to win this. Like it almost feels like what they need is just that little bit more. But they're almost there to like having consistent success in every facet.
I mean, it's like you said, they were one of, I think it was 6 teams made 2 finals this year. It might be 5, but I mean, Liquid made, enough finals, especially toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
They've only been together for 6 months or whatever it is. I don't know how long Yakinder's been on the team, but I mean, I don't think you need to worry. Like NAF and Elige had down years for their standards, probably, but they're still 2 of the best most consistent. And I mean, you're harping on Nat for dropping a 1.13. Like,
I'm not harping. I'm not
but you
harping
know what
on
I
it.
mean? Like that is a good rating.
It is.
Yeah.
Like
The
that is
only
good
thing I'm saying
performance.
is
It's just that
below.
Naf has dropped 1.2s in the past and been a 1.25. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's like amazing. But he's still doing a 1.13. Like I don't think that's something you can be like, all right, like we got to
No.
get this guy out of here. Like
No, and
that's
especially because I don't know, I don't think I got that much attention, but he did an interview with HLTV where he basically is like, yeah, when Yakinder comes in, all of a sudden I'm changing spots every time. He's like, oh, I'm a pit player on Inferno now. Cool. Oh, I need to go play like B-Site. Cool. Like we're just figuring it out, and Yakinder's like changing everything, and I think that's been the big factor this year. I also, and this is gonna probably be one of my hottest takes here, there is a noticeable decline of OC pre and post Yakinder's addition. There is a noticeable change. And that is I don't know what the problem is. I don't think that there's a Yakinder problem. But what we know is that OC used to talk a lot and contribute a lot, and Shocks remarked on it. What we haven't seen and what I didn't see in the major was OC talking nearly as much anymore during those pause times. Yakinder has obviously taken up that role. He's become more direct. Do we I fear that OC's form has dipped a little because he might have lost confidence in himself because now he's not one of the bigger voices contributing in that room of five or six.
I mean, it's possible, but I don't really know. Like OC's an amazing player. He's got an insane skill ceiling, and
Yeah.
he probably just has to figure out where he fits in this, team in this mold.
Well,
Like
that's what I'm saying.
he's definitely the best opper that North America's produced in years,
Yes.
and I think he still communicates. Like I don't know, he did it a lot with Extra Salt. I know he did it a lot with Liquid in this past team, and he, as an opper, is just very well rounded and fundamentally sound. And I know that he communicates and has ideas and takes lead on all that. So I don't know. They have to figure out a solution, but I believe in them. I believe in this whole Liquid team to perform well, and everything on paper makes a lot of sense and is really sick.
Yeah. I am a firm OC believer. Like absolutely. I think this kid should be a top 20 player next year. I think with Yakinder, I think if the team can figure out what he needs, like there's no reason that this Liquid team can't win like 2 S tier tournaments. Genuinely. Like they have all the components in place. It's just making sure everyone's on the right paper. Liam, what do you think? Are we looking at a Liquid team as potentially being one of the best now that we have literally the best entryer in the world?
Yeah, they definitely have the potential to. It's like Shake said, kind of getting those pieces to fit and getting everyone comfortable because like OC, like the op is obviously the most important gun in the game. It's one of the most important roles that you have to have be very consistent. You have to be finding impact as well. Like you can't just be working out that much money for a gun and not finding impact at all. I think it is difficult for OC considering that there's 3 players that are very clearly better than him and they're on the rifles. Um, I just think he needs to just be consistent. He doesn't even need to be like phenomenal. Like some people, I see so many people rag on him for not being like a superstar operator. He doesn't need to be a superstar operator. He just
No.
needs to be like consistent, finding entries when he can, like when he sees the opportunity and taking them. So I don't know if that's the case. Maybe he's just like a bit worried that he doesn't want to give up that entry when he has the likes of fucking Yakinder and Elish who can go out and get them as well. So like he just needs to be consistent this year, and I think that was his biggest issue last year is that he wasn't consistent. You kind of saw a bit of confidence go out of him at stages during games.
I think he was right because he blew up in COVID, right? OC really became this ethereal player in COVID, and then Lands come in, and now all of a sudden he's like, oh shit, I'm on Liquid now. Fuck. I have to go to these big lands. There's a lot more pressure on me. This is a big jump from going from whatever the hell I was in. Like, Shake, doesn't that like kind of change the way that players react? Like, we can even see it sometimes with players like, and I'm going to take a young player and we can move on from the young player, but Wiz, who's exceptional online. He's a great player. And then when he got to frag last time, he seemed to struggle. And do you think that there's just maybe some things with these younger players that don't have a lot of land experience and they're suddenly put into these like high pressure situations? They're not used to it.
I mean, maybe it's just lands in that environment or something that you never know about a player until you actually play or go to them. Some people are just stone cold and it just doesn't affect them at all. Somebody like James, obviously he's got a lot of experience, but he just doesn't even at the major, they're winning insane rounds and this guy's just stone cold.
Yeah.
So, you just never know with players. You have to go through a bunch of things that nobody ever considers. OC has to deal with all this travel now that he's never had to deal with in the past. How has that affected him over the course of a year? Was he really tired at the end of the year? Like, you just never know about any of that until you experience it, right? And I can't even speak on it because I really haven't done any. I've done some travel, but not anywhere near what he has. And so he performed really well his first year on Liquid, and some of that I think was during the COVID year. Still, I think that he played in front of an audience on stage for the first time when they made playoffs at some event. I don't know which one it was
Alone.
specifically, but again, playing in front of a live crowd on stage for the first time ever, like that's also something to consider. You never know with any of these steps until you actually do it. I don't think that playing small local lands really affects players that much, if I'm going to be honest, but I think that playing on the big lands could potentially impact it.
Yeah.
But you play high stress games your whole career, like when I played to qualify for EPL with OC back in Singularity, that's a high stress, stressful game right there.
Yeah.
And we were feeling it the whole time. I know that it's insane to compare that to playing in the playoffs of like a tier 1 event, but in terms of what it means to you at the time, like the feeling is not any different. It's like, all right, I got to win this. Like this is like livelihood.
Yeah.
I got to qualify for EPL and you're feeling the heat during the whole game. And I know you're just sitting there in your room
do you need
playing the match
for your hands? Do they get that sweaty?
It depends on the room, but I've definitely I have brought towels to lands in the past and had them ready to go because dude, there's just like 400 people and your local frag host, it's a sauna in there. Like you need a towel or you can't grip your mouse.
I'm not gonna lie. I will even be in my own room and I'm like, why the fuck is it so hot in here? Why am I sweating? Bad. And it's just over an MM game. Okay, so no more NA players. Do we have so let's do our own bold predictions for who we think could potentially or who are players to look out for next year. I think George, obviously, one of the best. He's had an amazing time with Nouns, and now he's on EG Black, which EG has still not officially announced. Which
is he on EG Black? Who knows? EG won't announce it.
Main grievances. We've had the official article of him signing. We've had that since like the beginning of December, so that's great. Who else would you put as a top as like a bold prediction, Shake?
In QZ, who recently joined the OO Nation team.
Yeah,
I think,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know if OO Nation will be in enough big games necessarily next year, but they're a team that just always has potential to do it.
Yeah.
But right now, if you wanted to make a bold prediction, I don't know if it would be bold, but you would say somebody like Headtrick because he just got announced. He's on NIP. Like he's going to play in enough games where if he performs like a Monacy, he will be good, or like he will get the chance. So if you're saying bold, like, you have to pick a team that is not sponsored that's going to have to push up.
Yes.
And so I don't know. I think for somebody like NQZ could be a good pick for that.
I'll take the NQZ pick because I don't think that 00 Nation, they're not a partnered team. They're not a partnered org. So they don't automatically have those big ones in there.
They still seem to get there somehow. Like they're at Cologne, they're going to be at Katowice. They're at Katowice, right?
No. You're going to Katowice. No,
yeah, I know. I don't know the 24 teams that are going.
You should know the 7 from 6 or 7 from North America.
6 or 7, yeah, I knew that.
It's only fine. It's only 5.
They do seem to get to those events though, like as well.
They do.
Like, yeah.
But it's the teams going to Katowice are it's Complexity, EG Liquid, and then it's MIBR and 9Z.
Okay.
So that one's
not quite.
We can talk about that in a second as well, and the shit show that was that, because not many Europeans, and Astralis in particular, were absolutely pissed off that Complexity and 9Z were able. No, it was Pain. Pain yeah. Got through. So Pain and Complexity got through because they played.
God bless the Cash Cup.
God, it was literally MIBR, Pain, and Complexity playing cash ups, along with EG too, because EG still needed some points to secure themselves.
How many cash cups did you win in your day, Shake?
Oh my god,
I don't really know. I don't know.
I think I tracked it. It was something like 6 or 7.
We're gonna need to get a picture of you like Messi holding all the Ballon d'Ors, but Shake with all the cash cups.
Not Messi, man. I had a good career, but you need to go talk to Swisher if you're looking for Messi of Cash
Oh
Cubs.
God, that guy. Okay, let's let's do the quick Cash Cup. I am Katowice thing. We're gonna break from this before we get to Blast Premier, and we'll talk about the World Final, and then we can talk about what's coming up next. So for everyone that doesn't know, I am Katowice. They had the global points. Basically, what happened was that Complexity and other North American teams figured out that if they all played Cash Cups, they could get more Pro Tour points because all of them would be raising the quality of the event. So that was the only point and the only reason that these guys did it. Like even the Complexity of the players were like, we don't really care about this. And then it turns out, oh no, if we win this multiple times, we are 100% guaranteed to go. So that's why they all did it. And then towards the end, there was the last Cash Cup remaining, which was such the shit show because Astralis was fucked from the beginning because they needed to win the CCT like North or something. And they apparently, like, I think, and what one person told me was that they asked to get into the CCT North because they also found out about the Pro Tour points and that they were going to miss out because they got rolled in like a Central Europe one. So EG and Payne at the same time knew they had to go do it. MIBR was like, oh, we should go do it, and then realized we don't actually have to do it anymore. We're going to be totally fine. And but with them not actually signing up and registering, or like with them not playing the first game, they lowered the points total. So Payne and EG at the end of the day had to do more, but they did successfully, and that's how the biggest heist of Katowice spots happened. All right, let's talk about Premier. Liquid making grand finals, losing to G2. Kind of a storyline loss to G2 with Hooksy and his dad. I don't feel bad about it. I feel like they should have won it, but you can't knock it. How do we feel about Liquid kind of ending their note in a grand finals loss, or at least a grand finals appearance, if we want to be positive?
I think like before the tournament, I'm pretty sure on the last podcast we did when we were talking about it, I was like they should be disappointed with anything that's not a finals appearance,
Yeah,
and they got to the finals. But
look
I
at you.
actually still think that they should have been disappointed with their performance in the final. Like I watched it and it was depressing. Like
was
I thought that they'd put up a way more of a fight, like at least.
It was like a
Um,
16-7, 16-10. It was just like they got
yeah,
rolled.
like it was not a good note to go out on. Like compared to like their EPL finals against Vitality, where they went 5 maps and like they really like had the game in their hands. Like it never felt like they were in this game. It just felt like, and it was a pretty early game as well. I remember, I think it was like 8 or 9 o'clock my time, and that like their time it would have been like 10 or 11 because it was the day of the World Cup final as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was hell early for a final, so maybe they just didn't wake up. Like they were still half asleep on the server.
10 a.m. Can't wake up for your match.
The classic.
You know,
The
I'm
long,
up at I'm up
Sorry, I
at
had to
8
throw that
a.m.
in there.
You just
the long lasting issue in this scene.
God, I will never forget that. What a great thing we're left with. Yeah, I don't know. I think the hard part is like going into it. If you told me that Liquid are 100% making the final, I would have snapped your hand off. Like, awesome, amazing, great. That's the kind of performance that the team needs. That's what we want to see. For them to lose that way in the final, just incredibly disappointing, and makes you feeling like they could have ended the year with a monstrous win that would have changed the entire mood of everyone in that team.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement that the fact that they were in the final before the event is really good.
Yeah,
That's because we think that FaZe and Navi were probably like you would think that FaZe is number one,
yeah.
and then Heroic had a stand-in, so you might give them a pass. Outsiders is a big question mark.
Well, Outsiders apparently
Usually-
wanted to kick Norbert since the major. So
Yeah, but like nobody knew that at the time, right? So it's like they were coming in as the major winners. Everybody thought that they'd punched up, but you never know, right? Like maybe Outsiders just has it figured out. And then you have Navi, who was pretty like probably the second best team of the year, right?
yeah,
For most of the year, they kind of slumped off toward the end. But I think that the main reason everybody has a problem with it is because everybody thought that Liquid was better than G2 before the final.
yes.
Everybody thought that Liquid should beat
They're
G2 in a
still-
final,
I
but that
still believe they're a better team.
everybody would like, but nobody would have batted an eye if they just lost to like Navi in top 6. They'd have been like, oh, that's disappointing, but like they played Navi, they lost to FaZe and Navi, FaZe in groups and then Navi in the playoffs. Like, what can you do? You
Right.
know? But it's just because they were favored against G2 in the finals that I think everybody is
Yeah, they're kind
kind
of
of
like
blowing it
we
up.
should have
But
won this. Yeah.
I even think if
yeah,
it was a close series, it would be far less disappointing. It's the fact that no one has showed up really. Like
Everyone
Ykinder was
just lost
worse
it.
rated across the series than Nitro, which is like if you said that before like the EPL finals, it's a massive concern. But
Do we think that there's a concern that the playbook for Liquid it might be becoming too Ykinder centric? So that if if it's just not Ykinder's day, the whole team falls apart. Are we like when is the time to get worried about that?
I don't think
If that
so.
is a thing.
Because, I mean, it's like you said earlier. I mean, Yekindar might be the driving force behind if Liquid has a really good day, he's playing really well, but you still have these pieces like Naf and Elige and OC who have every single chance to carry a game and can always show up in a server. And so I think that if Yekindar has a bad day, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to lose. It could just mean that he's making space and it's up to his teammates to now step into that role and, win the mid to late round scenarios. I think that somebody like Elige is always a student of the game, is always very knowledgeable, and there's no way that if Yakindar's having a bad day, that's not a solution Liquid has figured out. In server time and in team talks, that team is full of players that are vocal, and again, we'll see that is a thing that they need to work through and make sure that it's not an error or a problem during the games.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how Elige comes into the season, especially because like Ykinder was at the very start of last season. There wasn't like a load of time to kind of get like adjusted with the like this like Elige just played the game his way for so long. And to have Ykinder kind of come in and play that kind of similar role to Elige, he's has to kind of adjust himself. It'll be interesting to see like how he's worked on himself this off season coming into like Blast and Katowice because like I think Elige, like if he can find like his groove in this new role, I think they can be like unstoppable.
Well, speaking of Blast, looks to be a different kind of like group playoff thing that they're doing for spring groups, right? I didn't get a good chance to look into it, but it just seems like so what were the groups again? This is my problem. I'm scrolling through trying to find the article and we've written to go talk about it. But I am completely missing it. So okay, so the groups. Oh God, I don't even have the article for the groups. Wow, I look like an idiot. This is why we never
Group
should do
A,
this on stream.
Heroic,
It's
Vitality,
yeah.
Astralis, EG. Group B, FaZe, Liquid, OG, Complexity. Group C, G2, Navi, NiP, Big.
We are Dust 2 US, but holy shit, I cannot wait for Heroic Astralis. I cannot wait. That is going to be bang.
I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty good. They're all pretty good. I think that I don't know. I think Evil Genius is going to have a tough time. I think Liquid and Complexity together is going to be interesting. I don't know. I think I look at it and I kind of feel that the Liquid Complexity group is like probably one of the weird like I don't even know how to say it. Like I feel like OG and Complexity are on that way lower end and like Liquid and FaZe are on the like very high end. Like it's very like there I would have put like FaZe and I would have put FaZe as first and like Liquid third. And like OG is like maybe 10th, Complexity maybe 11th, like genuinely. So it's weird to see them like this in this way.
I mean, I think in theory, Liquid's 5th in the rankings, right?
I think that's what it is.
Because wouldn't Heroic be first, FaZe
Yes.
second, and then G2 would be third as the number 1 seeds, and then you would go back to front. So you would do Navi, Liquid, and then Vitality. So
Yes. Which I think is wrong. I think a lot of the other teams discount Liquid for some reason. Genuinely. I think
How
it's
are
weird.
G2 third as well? Like I know
That's
they
what I'm
won that
saying.
last, but that was like Vitality won World Finals the year before, and they made like 2 roster changes right after they won. Like I feel like they put too much into Blast World Finals considering where it falls in the calendar.
Well, it was also their only one event that you could look at G2 and be like, they were actually a strong team. Like they're like, I don't know. I very much disagree with I feel like consistently they put Liquid down. I will not stand for it.
Yeah.
But it will be an interesting one because we're gonna be seeing Complexity face off against FaZe. Another what is it? It's the rematch of that playoff, the
EPL.
Pro League playoff. Yeah, as I was editing your the Complexity article today, our year in review, remembering based off of that. They won map 1. They were up 14-11, and they just couldn't close it out to beat FaZe. Honestly,
Grim was playing the most lights out Counter-Strike of his career as well.
oh,
Triumph
What a
one Grim.
man.
oh my
Yeah.
god, Triumph one Grim.
I was watching it in my sitting
100
room on like the big screen, and I was losing my mind at every frag he got. On Inferno,
think-
he's a demon.
I think I'm gonna be up at 5:45 in the morning to follow along and see how this complexity team handles it. Yeah, but it'll be interesting, and then the winners will face off of that. So hopefully we get to see a Liquid win over OG, so that we don't have to see an NA team go out just immediately. What do we think about chances for NA at this event?
Well, here's hoping it's better than the last spring groups, because we had 3 teams, the same 3 teams, all go out in last place somehow, joined
I know.
together.
It was so bad.
It was the most depressing showing I've ever seen from
Oh
a
my
region.
God.
All 3. I had to look at the HLTV to see if I could confirm that all 3 of them finished last.
I think one team didn't. I think one team had. I think Liquid had 1 win, but
Well,
just
over
because they had to
EG.
like. Yeah, it was like over EG. It wasn't even like.
You see, we have 2 teams in the same group, so it's impossible
Yeah.
for all 3 to finish
True.
last.
True. So we get one for
NA's back. NA's back.
Is that my preview? Is that the preview that we release next week? NA guaranteed 1 win at Plat.
It could be.
No, I think Liquid are in a
Oh,
lot better
God.
position than they were at the start of last year, considering we didn't know what
Absolutely.
kind of factor Shocks was going to be. It turned out to be a shit one. EG, who knows who they're putting on the server, so there you go.
It'll be a fun experiment.
Complexity, I feel like Complexity's, I'm so, I'm so sick of saying it, it's the same sentence, but I'm still excited for Complexity, because I do like JT's system, I do like TC as a coach. I'm excited to see how much work they put in over the offseason now that they've like gotten Holzer kind of settled. So
Yeah.
I want to see how they build off what they had last season, because it's like you said, I wrote the article. When I sat down to write it, I'm like, how do you like look at Complexities 2022? A team that made EPL playoffs and nearly knocked out FaZe when they were dominant as hell at one tournament, and then doesn't qualify for a major at the next. Like, it's so weird looking at it, because like they
Yeah.
had all the potential. I think it reset them a bit when they had lost Junior, and like that whole period of like, God, we're so depressed we can't win a map. Like, it's just interesting to see how they're going to start off this year, because I feel like they should have the same kind of optimism that they had at the start of last year, but I don't know how that affects you mentally, missing out on that major, having so much of like the second half of the season cut off. So
Well,
I don't know.
I think they ended on somewhat of a high note. I mean, obviously qualifying for Katowice has got to put everyone in good spirits. JT as well. Good news for JT. He actually is a dual citizen now. So congrats to him. He's got a Portuguese visa. He's a citizen now of Portugal, or he's got a Portuguese passport. So his travel actually to the US is significantly better and easier. So maybe that helps on a little bits of things. I'm going to be very tough, and I'm going to say that I give this complexity roster 6 months, and if JT unfortunately cannot hold his own weight, he needs to be removed. The team they have too many good parts in that team, and I feel that Floppy also needs to step up a little bit here. But I think the problem lies, unfortunately, with JT's ability to frag, not with JT's ability to call. And that's the hardest thing, right? Is how are you going to find an IGL that's better at fragging, but also somehow replacement level in calling, which, in all honesty, I don't think that you can find.
Not in
cheap.
NA.
Not in NA. You've got to go EU.
That hurts, guys.
What? What? What do you? Who? Jake, give me 3.
Yeah, tell
give
us.
me 3. Give me 1. Give me 1. You tell me one guy in NA that can replace JT at calling level. You give me 1.
Bring back
Steal
Tarek
down.
Seelick, baby. Bring back Tarek.
He signed a $1 million deal with Sentinels to stream. He's not coming.
You don't
back
think
to
the Dallas
NACS
Cowboys?
ever.
That's chump change.
He can't frag.
Cap's going up for sure.
Get Jerry Jones in there, man. He will handle it.
I don't need fragging if we can get back John Gears. Give him back to me.
God, could you imagine like Sean Gares and Tarek like on that team?
Sean Gears coaching, Tarek calling.
Oh,
Damn,
God.
give it to me.
You know what the
Some NA
problem with NA
nostalgia right
is?
there.
Too many people want to be fucking celebrities and stream all day and go on camera and do those things. They want that's our problem. We
That's what
don't
it's
have a
about,
problem
though,
of good
content.
players. It's always about content, and that's what all of these players do. They get a little Twitch following, and then they're like, "Oh, fuck this pro thing."
And it all goes back to Tarek.
It all goes back. Tarek's
This whole scene just comes
Tarek's
back to
success
Tarek.
has killed NA. That's what the new blame is. That's my blame
Listen,
for
you
the
name
for the
any
month.
other player that's ever gotten a serial 4K, all right? Not even Simple has done that.
Also,
Hey,
the only
did you know
NA
that
IGL
Zelsis
to win a major.
Do you know that Zelsis aced at his first major?
I remember that, the first round.
pistol,
Yep,
first
first
round.
round.
Yeah.
It's with the Glock. It's no skill.
Wasn't with the Glock. It was USP.
It was Seaside.
He was Seaside.
It was
I think it was
T-side.
CC.
I think it was Seaside. Yeah, I think it was Seaside.
Some NA
He had a USP. I know that.
probably picked it up for a while.
Probably picked it up. Whatever. Point is, I hate them. Okay. So we don't think. How do we think for Liquid? Are we gonna also say they need to make finals again? I mean, they've got to go up against FaZe in here. Like this is not easy. And I think if they make the top, I think the thing is also if they make the top 3, then they get to go ahead and they qualify immediately for spring finals, right? That's the.
Yeah, is there finals for this, or is it?
So no.
Is that just
So
for?
it's
That's
just
that would
groups.
just for. Yeah.
It's just groups, and the winner of each group qualifies for
So
the
there's a
spring
group
finals.
finals.
And
Yeah.
then there's showdown. So if you don't win this, then you go to showdown, and that's how they're handling this.
The blessed showdown, so partner teams get as much time and much chances to make. Make the
Well, the
arena.
thing is, realistically, the way that I could see Group B playing out is Complexity and OG lose, Complexity beat OG, Liquid win, FaZe win. Liquid might lose the first time. They beat Complexity in the consolidation final, and then they go and play the group final, and I think that's a toss-up, genuinely, between FaZe and Liquid. First tournament of the year, Rust is strong. Apparently, Rain's having a kid or something. Who knows? I guess if Rain's having that's what Overdrive is apparently saying, that Rain might have a kid. So if Rain has a kid and they got to suddenly bring in Olaf Meister back into the fold, bring him in there, are we thinking that's easy peasy for Liquid? I don't know. It could change a lot of things.
I mean, I think you have FaZe and Liquid are the clear top 2 in the group. But when OG peaks, man.
They peak hard.
And I mean, that's a team that is, got top 4 at Blast Finals, and I think they even had a run where they were last coming out of groups, I think, and then they beat 3 straight teams to qualify, and they beat 2, I think, elite teams to make it through the group. So, I mean, you just never know what OG is going to show up, but I think you would bet that, if this group was played 100 times, FaZe and Liquid would win it 99 times. So you expect, but there's also, I think it's not just the winner of the group, but the top half of teams, so the top 6, make it to the final, and then the bottom half go to the showdown too. So even if Liquid doesn't necessarily get first in the group, they should, I think, finish top 6. And it's the first tournament of the year, and I don't think that at the end of the day, if they get 1 through 3rd or 4 through 6, there's going to be much of a difference for them. They're here to qualify and get top 6, and it's the first tournament of the year. You're just shaking off the rust. You're getting back into the form of things. Everybody's figuring out where they are on Anubis right now. We had the Blast finals at the end, but people were willing to play it, but I don't think that teams were really. I think teams were trying to figure out where they were on the map, and the event was a bit more loose with that. I don't know if teams will be as loose with that now that qualification is on the line for future events.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I think and I think you're right, and I just checked, it is top 6. So if Liquid can win 2 games, they just have to win 2 games and make top 6. So let's pray that we can at least get one NA team in there. It'd be nice somehow if Complexity can make it, but if Complexity had to sacrifice themselves and then run the gauntlet in Showdown, I'd be okay.
I don't think the groups are what determines your final placement. I think that you play the groups, and then I think if you win your group, you get placed. There's a playoff after, I believe.
Oh.
And if you win your group, you're automatically top 6, but you play the final BO3, if that makes sense. But even if you lose, you would get 4th through 6th. There's a knockout stage. But you would still have the playoff game, I think.
Oh, so producer Martin's in our ears telling us that basically Shakezullah is wrong, and there is no
Per
more playoff.
usual.
So per usual, Shake is wrong.
Well, it says there's a knockout stage right here. For second through third. Yeah, for the second through third. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm
right.
trolling. Trolling per usual.
Let's move on. We're gonna go quickly look at EG rumors. Cirque was cut. That's
Officially
been formally announced. That is very sad. I love our Bulgarian boy. He's been in NA for 5 years with the NRG and then to the EG squads. So that's
just a little bit late though from EG management.
I don't think it was late. I don't think it was late.
So
And the reason I don't think it was late was because of COVID. And I think COVID really messed a lot of things up. And I think it forced a lot of things to be different. He obviously did not play well during the COVID times. Those were weird times. They wanted to see how he was going to do when he comes back and is on land. And guess what? Didn't work out. Just didn't work out. He wasn't as strong there, and it didn't work out. Okay. That's how it is. Fine. Like I feel that they gave it the try. I feel like this was probably the right time for them to depart. And now they're looking to the academies teams to push up and see. The logical replacement is Wiz, obviously, because he's the opper. Wiz is not an opper. Not George, not an opper. Also, not officially announced yet as a player, so that's very fun and cool.
What about Automatic as the operator?
That's not a bad idea, honestly. It would be interesting to see if Automatic would go full op, and then we would have George as another rifler. Who knows?
I don't think you mess with Automatic's form though. Like as a rifler, like he's just solid. He's just been solid. Even like when he came back and they had like the Stewie 2K roster, like he was the solid one, even though he really should have been the
NAF-esque. He's very NAF-esque in that he's able to be a solid rock and a solid foundation for that team. And I hope that Nealon's able to execute him more carefully. But with that, if Wiz goes up, then EG Black have an offer that they need to replace, and who knows? Maybe they import someone. Maybe they find someone else that's just hanging out inside of the sphere. Maybe
despite his age,
one of Shakezullah's former teammates who was formerly on Complexity would be not a bad shout. Honestly, who's another player looking for redemption? We'll see. We're going to be also very kind on this show right now, and we're going to move beyond the EG rumors as well, because it's the best interest of everyone.
Despite his age, I actually wouldn't hate giving Pone a chance, because like, what's the point of signing two rosters like EG Black and EG White if you're not going to test out?
That's tough.
Like, I get he's 31, obviously but he's still playing. He's still doing really well. Like for like the level he's at, why did you not give him a chance to, see what he can do at tier 1? Because the times he's played tier 1,
my young 30-year-old talent Pone alone, free my boy.
I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be a bad shout to actually just give him a chance. Like give him like 1 or 2 tournaments to see how he does. Like in a team that's like the rest of the roster has been playing tier 1 events.
Yeah.
Like whenever he's gone over, like with PA, the rest of them didn't have any experience on like
EG White.
No, I'm saying when he was PA, like when they made EPL, like when they went over, none of them had like EU experience or against tier 1 experience. Like I think it'd be interesting to see how he performs with a team that actually does have some experience against tier 1. I don't hate it.
We'll see how
they'd be using the blueprint, Ryan.
They would be using the blueprint. They only used it like once or twice. All right, we got to move on. There's a few things that have happened with Brazilian teams and with Brazil in general. Number one, the trade of Oppers, NQZ, and Try just switch back. I feel very lukewarm about this. I feel like it just feels like a very lateral move for both players. I feel like Try going back to 0-0 Nation is like, okay. I don't know, sorry. Try going back to 9Z and NQZ going to 0-0. It's like, I feel like NQZ genuinely would have had better opportunity staying on 9Z. That is my honest take. And what I think is actually even worse is 9Z not holding down Zach. If they hold down Zach, I think that 9Z genuinely can consistently be a good team in the Americas region. Now I feel like they're going to stutter. They're not going to be as successful. And 0-0 Nation as well. Like I don't see a lot of positives in this move. Jake, you were shaking your head there.
I mean, I think there's a lot of positives for O Nation. I'm not trying to like just try it all. I just think that NQZ is such an upcoming talent and
Oh,
just
he's
such a good
insane.
opper that you have to take a chance, even if it's just on the potential, right? And
But for so it's a win for 00 Nation, but is it a win for NQZ?
I think so. I mean, what? Yeah, I know that 9Z is technically qualified for the last two majors, and 00 Nation hasn't. But other than that, what is the difference between the two teams?
I think that 9Z is certainly more threatening. I think that they have like David is a great player. Like I think that the squad is young. I think that they have a lot of potential. I don't see the same out of 00 Nation. I see them as like an upset potential team and not much more of like this rising squad that can actually compete for titles.
I think that 9Z is definitely the better team, and their core is really good. I think Max is really strong. I don't know why I can't think of the DGT is really strong as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean, you now have NQZ and you have Lotto, who are arguably the two biggest upcoming prospects in Brazil, and they could become the next. It's bad comparison, but like Quesarado and Yuri-esque type players in the future, right?
Yes.
So they are building that foundation. And I don't know where the 00 Nation team will be in 6-12 months. I know the buyouts are insane when it comes to Brazil. So if you have the chance to get two, solid players like that, yeah, you have to jump at the chance for 00
So
Nation and you fix it down the line.
I don't see this as a positive move for NQZ, and that's why I'm a little upset.
Maybe in the short term, but I think in the long term it
Yeah.
is. And you never know what it's like with teams in terms of communication
Isn't
and
isn't
how it
Dumau
works with them.
still Dumau's on the 00 Nation team, right?
Yeah.
I still he I feel has
He's a
like
baller, yeah.
he's an absolute demon. And I that this is the part that's frustrating to me. How do you have a team of Taco, Cold Zero, Dumau, Lotto, and Try, and you're struggling? You know what I mean? Like that team, I feel like the team should have done more. And I just don't see I just don't see the answer being we need a new opera. I just
I,
don't see that being the answer in
I think
any capacity.
I think it'll get me in a lot of trouble with the Brazilians, but I think the biggest issue on 00 Nation is very obvious and no one wants to say it. It's
Say it.
Old Zera. Like he's not like you don't even need old Cold Zero. You just need a solid like role player at that point. When you have
Yeah.
three youngsters and Taco calling the way that he does, like but he's not been solid. Like I'm looking at his stats here, and I know it goes beyond stats, but even when you see him in game, he just doesn't seem like comfortable. He seems to give away kills when he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like. I think if you went out and got like a solid Brazilian role player for gold, then that team's banger. Like
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this team advance with NPC. And I mean they're gonna have IEM Brazil, which will be very exciting. It's now taking place of IEM Spring. There is no location announced, which is why this is not IEM Rio Part 2. I like thought it was. I read the press release and I was like, "Hey, Rio's back," and it's like, nope. Actually, still have no idea where it is.
let's milk the
Apparently,
shit out of this Brazilian clout with all the press releases.
listen. I think the problem is they're slowly hurtling towards an event that they've committed to, and they still don't have a location. And now it's becoming a concerning problem because now they just need to find a place for this, and no one knows where it's going to be. I don't think ESL has. If ESL knew where it was going to be, they would have said where it's going to be, and that is concerning.
Get a stadium like they wanted to for the major, so we can get run it back with outsiders heroic final that no one's going to watch.
Shay, what do you feel? Would you be excited about IAM Brazil?
I mean, there's no denying that when the Brazilian teams were in there, it was one of the most electric, incredible atmospheres that we've seen. Um, I think that Brazil definitely has earned its chance to continue to get tier one events, and with what they've done in the CS scene, I think you would still like to see a South America event at least one time during the year, and I think Brazil has earned that right to have at least one event per year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the country loves Counter Strike, obviously, and if they're able to host these kinds of events, and if they're able to either make a ton of money off of it or bring new customers in, I mean that's the logical reason, right? That's the only reason that you do these things is you go to places that you know you're going to get fans. And speaking of going to places where you know that you're going to go get fans, a place that no teams of the country will be in attendance, the Paris Major. So very, very exciting for this. The
Couldn't even keep a straight face.
God, I was so close, and then I just see Shake just do this silent like. I was like, so the Paris Major. We're gonna hear details in about 9 hours, 11 hours. Not really 9 hours. 9 hours.
Are you even gonna bother going to bed?
Yes, because I also
Great.
have an appointment at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, where I am getting my new driver's license because I live in New York and my old driver's license was not from New York and I need it. So I have to go do that at 7:45. So I am going to be waking up at 3:30, turning on my computer, loading up OBS, maybe recording the press conference so that we can have all the quotes and everything when we do the article. Go back to sleep for 2 hours, wake up, and then go like stand in line at the DMV at like 7:30 to go get a new license. That's
And
going
you'll
to be
get
my
home
morning.
at 9 p.m.
Oh God, don't even joke. Like it's gonna be miserable, and I want everyone to know that I am not coming into work at 9 a.m. like you all expect me to do every day. I am coming in whenever I damn feel like it tomorrow.
Gonna wreck your head in the call.
Oh God, it's gonna be brutal. But we've got a rundown. So we have three. We have Shocks is coming. Zai Wu will be there. Apex will be there. I'm going to guess that Emmanuel Macron would be there. I think it makes the perfect sense for Macron to be at this press conference in front of the Eiffel Tower, basically just to be like, "Welcome to the Paris Major. This is so exciting!" Like Macron's been so involved in this. I think it's pretty cool. And what's very funny is that this conference is coming a day after in Brazil, the Minister of Sports said esports are not sports, they're entertainment. So I think it's interesting that we have in one part of the world and we have a country that's not only like recognizing it, but actively celebrating it and actively pursuing it and like making sure that these companies are hosting them. So I think it's I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to see where we think the RMRs are going to also be this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
go ahead. I mean,
One
I
of
think
you
that
speak.
Europe is just ahead of the curve when it comes to esports in general, right? And just recognizing it. Like a big thing that I always have is that whenever I travel to Europe and they're always like, "Oh, why are you coming here?" It's like, "Oh, I'm gonna play video games." All right, what video game are you playing? "Oh, I'm playing Counter-Strike." "Oh, I know what that is." And then I come back to America and they're like, "Well, why have you been in Europe?" "Oh, I was over there competing in a video game tournament." And they're just like, "Huh? Like what?
You make
What does that
money off
mean?"
of that? You can do that for real?
So yeah, it's just Europe. It's just ahead of the curve when it comes to esports. I mean, esports bars and all that stuff over there. The infrastructure, there's
Oh, yeah.
schools. You know, we're just starting to get university. I mean, I don't know, man. We lag behind everything in America.
Yeah.
All the new stuff, we just lag behind. So
It takes a little time.
it's all
Takes
good.
a little time.
Yeah.
What do we
Yeah, it's
what do we think about potential locations for the RMR? I think this has been interesting. I've heard strong rumors that that Blast is confident of keeping them in every single region, which means I think there's going to be an America's RMR in the Americas, in the Western Hemisphere.
Crazy.
I mean, look, well, it hasn't happened, right? The first one that they did for Stockholm, that was up there in Romania, and then the second one was again out there in Romania, and then the third one they were like ESL. Everyone got mad at ESL because they were like, it was just like COVID's over and therefore we can't do it, but their other concern was like visa issues, which were fair.
Yeah, I mean, like the Australian teams got theirs for the ESL one. Everyone going to Romania for the first two makes sense if you have everyone in the same place. But then having the third one be like, oh, Americas are the only ones that don't get one. That's kind of why it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
get it.
and I get the visa issues. Like, I know that they had the problems with Dallas and stuff, but like, there's definitely a workaround. Which like you said, they're clearly finding
there
it.
is not. So this is the biggest problem: is that for the U.S., Brazilians have to get a visa. And
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you can get one in America, like the Americas. It doesn't have to be the U.S.
Right. Okay.
For,
So
like
then,
what we're seeing.
Right. But okay. So then what? They do it in Brazil? It's easy
Well,
for
so-
Americans to go there, but Mexico, Brazilians also need visas to go to Mexico. Like, let's do it in Puerto Rico. Let's do it in the Dominican. Fuck it. Like,
What's wrong with Canada?
I think they also need visas
Do
to
you
go to
need
Canada.
visas? Yeah.
But it's something about how
it's
easy
I
like,
knew
it
about
is to
the
get a
US, but I
visa.
was
so
Like, the US is
bad.
probably the hardest one to get a visa to,
Yeah,
though,
100%.
right?
Yeah, so I don't think it's
So
gonna be the U.S.
you would realistically have to do one of the other
Most
two.
definitely.
I think
Canada's
it's.
probably the most logical one, but I don't know anything
I
about
think.
visas and how hard it is to get one.
I think genuinely, I think the easiest one to do would be Brazil. The only downside to doing it in Brazil is going to be cost of flying everyone to Brazil from the Americas. That is the only problem. But I still see that as probably relatively cheap than anything that they could do, and at least that they have the infrastructure and they know they have the infrastructure to be able to host it. The only other downside right now is that Brazil is currently undergoing a lot of political unrest, which is not great. So that might pose a little bit of a problem.
I mean, I don't think the cost would be very different if they hosted it in Americas compared to Brazil. I could be wrong, but like in theory, half the teams are flying to NA compared to half the teams are flying to Brazil, right? So wouldn't plane ticket costs be very similar? And wouldn't overhead and things be
Well,
cheaper overall in Brazil?
It's
Like
a
the
it
food
is
per day, the
cheaper.
hotel,
Foods and hotels are
the
cheaper in
arena. So I'm
Brazil.
saying like it would be a lot cheaper to host it in Brazil in theory,
That's
wouldn't it be?
yeah.
I thought you said it
Yeah.
was the opposite.
No, no. If I did, I'm sorry. No, what I meant was to say was that it is cheaper to do it in
Okay.
Brazil. The major cost is just the flights.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, they have the infrastructure, everything's in place. I think Brazil is the most logical option for this. And that's the only one that I see.
I mean, it's definitely an option for cost too, but I thought when everybody was mad about the fact that we had to go to Romania for
You went to
RMR,
Sweden.
that was like absurd. No, we went to
Wait.
Romania for the PGL Antwerp. I don't
Oh,
the
yeah.
last one,
Yeah.
but I remember everybody was mad about the Romania one, and I was like, dude, we're like NA teams getting the chance to go over to Europe and like practice. Like, what are you guys mad about? Like, okay, I understand Liquid might be mad or something, right? Like they get to come home, have an event, but like, dude, the other like 13 teams that are going to the RMR that don't travel most of the year, like, you guys can like let's chill. You get to go practice in Europe, like you have no excuse. You get to hop on one flight one time this year for 9 hours or whatever. Like, suck it up.
I don't know. I love to travel. So like for me, I'm headed out to Paris and I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. I can't wait to go do this. Why would you not want to go and at least like go see something else other than my podunk Illinois town? Like, Jesus. I don't even have to pay to go out there. So
Yeah, I definitely remember a lot of people complaining about the Stockholm one, which like I just said there, I feel like that was just because Australia got, or like the Oceanic region got theirs in Australia or wherever it was held,
yeah.
and Europe got their ones held in Europe. Like I think that was the biggest reason.
I just when I look at it, it probably is better in a lot of cases for these teams to go to Europe. You can get free practice. Just go to Europe. Just get the free practice. And I think that the outrage was too much, and I think it was yes. Was it bad that was it bad at the look of it? Yes. But and realistically, it was probably better for the players to go to Europe and do it because then they were able to get better practice.
If teams are really serious about boot camping too, the major cost that you just had to go do a European boot camp, which is the flights, is just taken care of by the event organizer, and they will send you there and fly you back on whatever dates you want. You
That's
just need to,
crazy.
like, they will book it, right?
Will they really?
So
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had a problem when I've done the stuff. I booked a lot of stuff for B&B. Like, they will send you whenever. You just have to give them the dates, but they're only going to book you the one, flight, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're over there already, and there's so many opportunities in Europe, there's schools where if you go over there, they will house you for almost free, and all you have to do is help, the students. You go in there, you talk about what it's like to be an esports pro. You go over there and talk about like what your daily life is like. Like I'm telling you, there is an unbelievable amount of resources in Europe that either A, people don't know about, or B, don't utilize. And if you go over for the RMR, unless you have to come back and play tournaments or you have to play like Premier, you can go boot camp for like 2 weeks and probably get back for under I don't know, probably like $2,000 total. I would say total.
That's
We
pretty
rewind
great.
to this. Can we rewind to the talking to school children about
what
you're
is this? Schools will
Yes,
put you on.
esports schools are a very real thing over in Europe. Okay, where like you can do esports programs, or like they will teach that, and they will literally house you. I'm
This is
not
so cool.
joking. Like they will house you. you just have to go over there and like, you know, you have to do work for them essentially.
Did you
It's
do
it's
that?
not even a lot. It's not even a lot.
Was this in Romania you did that?
No, it's like there's literally schools all over Europe. The one that I know is mostly in Norway.
Can you
But
imagine like a classroom full of 30 Norwegian 10-year-olds, and here we have Shakezullah, and he just walks through the show.
but that's what I'm saying. Like obviously the
I want
resources are
Semtis
out
to
there,
go
all
do
right?
this. I want
And
Semtis
you don't
to go teach some kids about esports.
you don't think that like a company like Face It might let an NA team boot camp at their facility for a discounted
Oh, yeah.
price? Like the PR win that they would get would be huge. You know, like we're saving NA.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. There are opportunities out there. That's all I'm saying. Yes, you will have to pay something. You'll have to do some stuff out of pocket, but and you know you're playing anyway. Like invest in your future. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm
Getting
just
riled
ranting
up,
at this
man.
point. I'm just
You're
ranting
getting-
at this
I
point.
agree.
Getting riled
with
up. I think though that is a good place that we should kind of end it here. I look forward to the press conference. I look forward to the reactions. I guess you will hope that the RMR, for the sake of NA, is in Europe. I kind of hope so too. I had it planned and scheduled out as if the EU RMR is over there. Liam is supposed to go over if it's there.
Me and Rob have an
know.
event if they'd have put it in.
So we'll see what happens there. I'm Ryan at Dust 2. That's Liam Slevin, also known as Slevo. Alan, Shakezullah, Hardeman, thank you so much for joining on with us. I appreciate
Always
your
a
time.
pleasure.
And we will see you guys. We will see you guys next week. So yeah.
You got me.